So let's be honest. We're having a show from our very own homes here tonight on this very lovely Thursday night, April 6th, 2023. And yet we could be at Star Wars Celebration. In fact, our buddy Freddie never misses a celebration. It's, in fact, in addition to judo and rad shirts, as well as dope hats, it's essential to Freddie's personality that he goes to Star Wars Celebration every single time, no matter where it is. He's always going to be there. And this year, he's there without us, which is fine. It's really fine. Star Wars, Lucasfilm, hey, if you're listening, be awesome if you didn't schedule Star Wars Celebration Easter weekend, because, it really alienates a lot of Christians. So there's that. All right, I said it. I said the words, but we don't have Freddie here with us tonight, but we do have the rest of the team. Welcome, guys. Hey, welcome. Hello. Good to see you. Let's play a little game. Let's go around the horn. You ready for this? What do you think Freddie's doing in London? I saw some pics on the gram. Freddie and Nia got there early. They've been doing the London thing. What do you think? What do you think Freddie's been doing in London? Getting ready for celebration.
Can I make a caveat to our game?
Sure.
Can we play it in British accents?
Oh my gosh. That sounds okay.
I like it. Let's go.
Governor, you're first. No, I'm not gonna do it, man. I can't. Thanks for that. I tried.
You think he's had a full English yet?
Oh, that is. I like it. It's quite good. I think
toast.
Beans for breakfast.
All right. What's Freddie doing in London? Here's my first one. All right. I'm gonna start us off strong. Ready? Anytime Freddie needs to know what time it is, he's like, "Is it lunchtime?" He doesn't look at his watch. He walks to Big Ben.
Yeah.
And looks at the clock to see. What else is Freddie doing in London?
I bet he's minding the gap quite a bit.
Mind the gap. I'm kind of slipping into Australian. The more I do a British accent, it's bad. But
blimey.
Don't say that. Then I will go full Australian.
I do know that he did check out the Stonehenge.
Oh, nice.
Is that what they call it? The street youths these days?
I don't know. That's what I call it.
Henge.
There's like a ton of stone circles, but like everybody only goes to that one. So I call it the Henge.
I could say this much. This episode is unhinged so far.
Oh,
yeah.
True.
I think he's having some good fish and chips down and having them by the buttload, perhaps.
Did you say boatload or buttload?
Buttload.
Yeah, I still not.
Buttload.
I said buttload, but I meant boatload. You got it on. I'm making my dog.
You think he's at a double-decker bus?
He's probably like hijacking a double-decker bus. Maybe
no doubt.
Street racing it, isn't it? When we
I
went to
put that past him, he's just like driving.
When we went to the site of Anakin and Padme's wedding in Italy a couple weeks ago, there was a British couple sitting in front of us. And apologies to all of our British listeners, but this particular, it was like a mother. No. This was on the bus. A mother and son, and they were both just swearing nonstop in their British accent at the top of their lungs.
Oh boy!
It was like a teenage boy and his mom, and I was about to lose it. It was really grinding my gears. So I'm
how
sure
do you think the English would handle that? The British, how would they handle that?
They'd probably cuss back,
or I tell you how I would handle it. I would throw some tea into the harbor. You know what I'm saying?
Oh no, you went there.
Right. I did. All right. How about this? What if he's? I bet you Freddie is currently at this very moment, as we speak, having tea with the Queen.
Well, the Queen's dead, so the King. Long live the King.
I said what I said.
That's a good point.
He's probably having tea with the Queen's Force Ghost. Because after all, in this very special episode of Legends Look Back, we are talking about an episode where I'm possessed, you're possessed, everybody's possessed.
Everybody's possessed.
We've got long dead Sith Lords hanging out with everybody in the Legends Classics Tales of the Jedi. So
seriously, hold on. Can we do a little like what's it called? What's the game? You fill up the squares. Bingo, that's the one. Let's play a little like Legends Freddy bingo and just like try to like imagine what he's going to come back with, like stories. I think famous person on a double decker. That's my bingo square.
You'll never believe who I ran into. Sat next to Rosario Dawson on the double decker bus.
Exactly. So
Freddie, that's his thing. he has had all of these encounters with the famous royalty of Lucasfilm because of all these years of going to Celebration and like the Rancho Obi-Wan galas.
Yeah.
Or gala. He would probably say gala because he's exotic.
Mm.
But
Most
We're
interesting
just
man
a
in
whole
the
bunch
world.
of heathens over here. No culture. There's
I bet
three
we
of us.
say
All the
Augustine
culture's
too.
gone.
yeah, I bet she says Augustine. Oh my goodness, that was a very inside the ministry joke right there. People are gonna love that one.
I know.
Them
Wait, how
and
are
their
you supposed to
crickets.
say
The
it?
three of us. Augustine.
How it Augustine is. I can't do it.
What?
I say Augustine.
I do
like
too.
a,
I like
like
the
a
joke
filthy
of,
casual.
yeah, exactly. People who are
Okay.
so
Well, I
fixed
learned
on
something today.
Augustine. I'm like, you mean Augustine? I'm from Tennessee, y'all.
Well, listen,
Augustine.
we may be uncultured, but to all of
Oh,
our
man.
listeners out there, you're clearly not because you have joined us for this
Mm,
episode of
mhm.
Legends Look Back. We are talking
You're with
about
us.
some of the chef's kiss finest Legends material ever written. And Emily and Rick 100% agree with me, and they are not still struggling to even finish the issues that I assigned for tonight's roundtable. And so I'm very excited to get into it. So without further ado, Rick, let's do it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Legends Look Back, proudly part of the Utini Podcast Network. This is a Star Wars books podcast for people who have arthritis. Here it is. Yeah, people who have arthritis from crossing their fingers when they burned CDs for their friends in hopes that their discs would burn correctly and not pop out prematurely. Where we celebrate our rich EU history as well as dive into lesser-known Star Wars classics. I'm your host, Jared Mays, and I'm joined by my wonderful legendary co-host, not Freddie C, because he's at Celebration. But I do have, however, joining me tonight, the lovely Emily Daybeck.
I love these intros, man. Every single week you have a different one, and it cracks me up every single time. I've got some like chest congestion tonight, guys. I apologize. I've been very sick, but I'm feeling good now.
Been smoking the
so
pipe
you hear
again,
me like hacking a lung in the background. It's not because I'm what's the British way to say having a cig? No.
Having a right proper fit.
No.
I don't know.
Dang.
Yeah.
All right, well, that didn't go anywhere.
I do appreciate the love on my my little 90s illustrations. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Every time.
I do put a ton of work into those.
It shows.
So
Well done.
I recently discovered there's a lady on TikTok. I have to give her a shout out, a proper shout out next week on the show because she has this series of things you only knew in the 90s. Things, what is it?
Oh, yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah. Things only you'll know about if you lived in the 90s, sort of things. Part 247. I mean, she's done a buttload of these, if you're Rick. And so I got some of that's
definitely
weeks.
a Rickism. You should get that a tattoo on your
Where would you get it?
Yeah, your arm.
On your boat. That's where you would
on
get
your boat.
Rick, you're not on a boat. You are, however, here on Legends Look Back. Welcome to our producer, Rick Grace.
Maybe I'm on a sinking ship. It's too soon to tell. But I'm here.
Good to have you here, even if you haven't finished the required breeding, which, you know what, it happens to the best of us and to the worst of us, as I always say. Rick, that was a guilty look if I ever saw one, as somebody who has taught a Bible class or two.
Look at my giant mug that says best dad ever.
That's a deflection. I know
What?
a deflection.
What?
Well, I'm very excited to talk about this. However, we do have a couple of promos to make here at the top of the show before we get into the episode proper. Emily, lead us off. Tell us about the fun things happening over on our sister show, the Star Wars Archives.
Absolutely. So as of April 23rd, we are changing the release schedule. So Star Wars Archives is incredible. They are just all the ins and outs of all the things you didn't need to know about Star Wars, but is so fascinating. So if you haven't heard their show yet, you should check it out. We currently release that as a 3-month gap. So our patrons get it right away. If you support us on Patreon, you've always gotten it right away. And then public release was about 3 months after. Well, we are changing it to where like as soon as the patrons get one release, like we're basically just one release back. So we will release it to the public just one episode away. So that is really exciting right now because they've just released a ton of new episodes. Are we current with that?
Yeah, so I believe today is the 4th. So all week, if you have been paying attention, you've been getting some new Star Wars archives in your feed in the general release. So today is what is it? The 6th? That
The
can't be
6th.
right.
Yep,
What is?
today's the 6th.
Oh wow, what a week this has been. So today would be the Rebels episode, and then next. Oh, this one's my favorite out of the list of episodes coming out this week. There's a Force Ghost episode, which is very timely for Tales of the Jedi.
And for those of
Very
you who are
timely.
not aware, Trevor, who is one of the main hosts of the show, is one of our timeline fanatics. Like, he is fantastic at making sure our timeline is picture perfect. And when we were at Celebration last year, someone who worked on the timeline book, who wrote the timeline book, said that she referenced some of his work
Oh, and
on
that's
our
finally
timeline.
coming out
For
at
the
this celebration. Finally.
Is it really?
Yeah, yeah,
That's fantastic.
that's right.
So,
That's right.
yeah, they're legit.
Yeah, and shout out to Trev, who has celebration happening in his own backyard. I did see a pic where he was taking a bunch of Utini folk to his favorite pub, as they call it, a right proper pub. Also, Rick, what have you done? I can't stop with the British accent. Yeah, Amy Richow. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce that. But,
Raichu.
that's a Pokemon. Shout out to Amy, wonderful, lovely person. Got the chance to meet her, and congratulations on the publication of your book.
Yeah.
Rick, tell the good folks about Utini cosplay while I go grab my Jedi robes.
Great. So, do you like to Star Wars cosplay? Because I know I do, and I like to Photoshop myself into weird Star Wars scenes. Because why not?
So good at that.
But for April, the month of April, which we are in 6 days, Jared, into the month of April, we are doing a Utini cosplay showcase. This is dedicated to all you cosplayers out there. And so either if you are inspired by or you steal your look and you made an outfit, show it off. So what we're going to do is we're going to showcase the brilliant talent that you guys in our Utini community and the extended Star Wars community has to offer, especially with celebration going on. So whether you're at London or you're at home, we want to be celebrating with you. And so here's what you need to know. We want to see your work. So share your cosplay with us in the Utini cosplay event channel in Discord that is live now, or use hashtag Utini cosplay in your social media posts. And then each week on the Living Force and Legends Lookback, we'll be shining a spotlight on some of our favorite cosplay entries and celebrate you guys' craftiness. And maybe we'll get in on it a little bit later. So we can't wait to see your takes on our favorite galaxy far, far away all month long. And feel free to message Timothy if you have any questions. Yeah, special shout out to Alexander for helping out with the idea as well. And who is that who's joined the show?
They'll
Oh
never
my.
recognize me now that I'm in my
man.
Sith Lord costume.
Uh-huh.
Hello there. Aha.
Oh, hey.
No, actually, every single time, this is one of my favorite running gags with my wife. Every time she puts her hood up, like if she's wearing a hoodie, she'll say, I bet they'll never recognize me now. Because that's what Sith Lords do. They put their hood up and they're like, now I'm a Sith Lord.
That's right.
Invisible.
Kills
It's
me.
my cloak of invisibility.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, Rick, we're supposed to be pulling the images from that channel, the competition with that hashtag.
I was
and
wondering about that as I
bring
read
them
that.
in the
Like,
show. So
we're
yeah.
doing that
Oops.
starting in April that we're already 6 days into.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I'm currently needing to complete my Jedi robes garb because when we did our gag on the show last year for Kenobi Week,
Yep.
I did not have the rest of the ensemble. I had a tunic and then I wore a bathrobe underneath, and it came across fine on camera. However, you didn't see what was happening from the waist down.
Yeah.
But now I actually need Jedi pants and boots
Mm-hmm.
and a belt for I'm doing a Star Wars wedding. And
Oh, nice.
Oh.
but yeah, turns out I was like, oh yeah, I've got Jedi robes already. No, I only had half of the costume because ours was for a podcast.
Yep. I had to buy like some girl boots from
Understandable.
Goodwill and then like cut them down the back because my fat calves wouldn't fit in them. But it worked out. So
Rick.
Yeah.
Oh, hey,
What?
Rick, you gonna put these compliments down in the on the show here of everybody telling me I look good in my Jedi robes? Because you're welcome to if you'd like.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we had a request. Is this what you're talking about?
Oh, come on! This is a running gag on the show for a couple of years at this point.
Look at
Fred is
how like
trying
my face is now hidden. It's like
yeah.
my Mike Wazowski.
Just pop up.
I made the show, guys.
Yeah. Rick, Freddie has been trying to get me to cosplay as Salacious B. Crumb. It hasn't happened yet.
It will
hasn't, but
happen
will it?
one of these days.
I would like one of those, the animatronic ones that'll sit on your shoulder. So if anybody wanted to get me a gift for Life Day,
So
you're welcome
then
to.
you be
What about just
cosplaying
like
as Jabba?
one of those hairless cats? Would that count?
I do not like those.
No.
It reminded me of the default bearded protagonist in KOTOR 2. That's the greatest compliment I've ever received in my entire life. Thank you. I hope you're not talking about the woman. All right.
Oh.
Well, canonically in Legends, the protagonist in KOTOR 2 is a female because of the book. Revan. Yeah, that was kind of an inside meta joke there. Rick, save the day here. Tell the good folks about Tales of the Jedi. What are we talking about tonight?
Let's talk about Tales of the Jedi. Yeah, there it is, Jared. Let's hold that book up so everybody can see. What is that? The Epic Volume 2?
Yeah, this is the Epic Collection Volume 2 because Volume 1 doesn't actually contain any issues of Tales of the Jedi. It contains Dawn of the Jedi.
Dawn of the Jedi, yeah.
But this doesn't contain all the issues that we're talking about tonight.
No.
Because that's coming in Volume 3, which comes out in June. So,
and I, heard Tales of the Jedi, and then I was like, oh, well, Volume 1's all Dawn of the Jedi, so not that one. So I've read like 80% of Volume 2, which we're talking about next week. But yeah, okay, anyway. So Tales of the Jedi is an ongoing comic series from Dark Horse, published back in the good old days, in between 1993 and 98. Let's see, it was written by Tom Veitch and Kevin J. Anderson. Illustrators were Christian Gossett and Janine Johnston, David Roach, Tony Atkins, and Dario Carrasco.
Yeah, you're welcome for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, as we mentioned, there's a good chunk of issues that are collected in Tales of the Jedi Volume 2, the Legends Epic Collection. That would include Golden Age of the Sith, Fall of the Sith Empire, and then Tales of the Jedi 1 through 5, and then the Freed and Nad Uprising. Those first two that I mentioned, Golden Age of the Sith and Fall of the Sith Empire, are a prequel to this story, which is already a prequel. That was written after the first issue. So we're covering specifically the saga of Ulic Keldroma and Nomi Sunrider in tonight's episode. We're following along with like publication release because we're purists in that way. / it's the way I wanted to do it. So that's the real reason. All right. Then the rest of it that came out in June. The next set of issues that comes out in what is that? This June. And that's Dark Lords of the Sith War, Tales of the Jedi Redemption, and then some other random riffraff that is paired in there for kicks and giggles. So tonight we're covering the Beast Riders of Onderon, the Freed and Nad Uprising, Dark Lords of the Sith, and the Sith War. Clear as mud?
Yeah, totally.
Yep.
I read all of these.
Rick definitely did not read all of these, and that's okay. And if you didn't tonight, we're going to try to give spoiler warnings as we go at the appropriate junctions. Emily said she did finish the required reading shortly before the show, so it's at least fresh on his mind. I asked Jacob, when is the Omni release? He says July of next year, LMAO. So let's get into it. What do you say?
Yeah,
let's do it.
All right. I'm very excited for this. And of course, if you're wanting some more content, some more information on this, Freddie and I did a roundtable on Tales of the Jedi, all in one roundtable years ago. We're this time around going into more detail, separating the story arcs a little bit more, and getting Rick and Emily's input as well. So I did compare the notes, and I've tried not to ask the exact same questions. So if you want more info, you can find that over there. All right.
So go back and steal Freddie's answers.
That would not work because it's an audio podcast, and we're live. So in case you didn't know, this is a live show.
No cheating.
This is live. Since when?
But this is spoiler warning. We're going to get into some of the big spoilers. we won't go into explicit spoilers on like how the last story arc ends, at least until late in the show. So if you've only read, the first couple story arcs, you're safe for a little while. All right. I didn't totally finish writing the summary, but here's what I've got. And meeting the theme for tonight's show. All right, here we go. 3 Jedi apprentices, Ulic Keldrama, his brother Kay, and the Twi'lek Tot Danita go to Onderon to investigate the tensions between the royal family, Queen Aminoa and King Omen, and all of them, and the unruly beast riders that live in the woods and ride dinosaurs. Turns out the beast riders are rad, and the royal family are possessed by the spirit of Sith Lord Frida Nad, which they probably should have included that in the initial email. And so the planet breaks out in civil war. The Jedi are caught in between. There's a princess who's in love with a beast rider, and they show up Wedding Crasher style, like Owen. What's that guy's name with the big nose? All right.
Wilson. Owen Wilson.
Yeah, like Owen Wilson trying to bust up the. All right, trying to bust up the wedding, but they were Jedi not supposed to disrupt the wedding because they're in love, and you Jedi have a lot to learn. There's a lot more that happens with all that. Jedi are victorious, but like kind of have a whole lot to learn and really mess things up along the way. They're saved by their master who comes in and said, "Yeah, y'all should have just came back to me when you found out that everything was so messed up." But Ulic Keldrama, hey, he is charismatic and headstrong, and well, there's a lot more to cover that I didn't have time to type out, including the saga of Nomi Sunrider, who becomes a Jedi after her husband is murdered by some common street thugs like a wimp.
Yeah, that was a takedown.
Exar Kun became a Sith Lord because he's a straight up punk, but he's got a cool ponytail and a double bladed lightsaber.
Okay, okay, we're gonna have to clarify the timeline for me there.
We'll get back to it.
It. Yeah.
And also my favorite of the entire story arc, when Ulic Keldrama challenges the Mandalore to an epic duel. So that's cool. There's a lot more of people falling to the dark side, and Sith amulets, and Sith spirits, and Jedi temples, and Masasi beasts, and the rule of 2. So, wow, there's a ton to get into. But first, let's go around the horn and rate this first chunk of Tales of the Jedi comics that we have read for tonight's show. Emily, let's start with you. How do you rate this on a scale from masterpiece to incredible? Those are the only 2 scores that I'm accepting tonight.
One's below incredible. Is it like good?
It should be great. I advocated for great to be somewhere right in between, but yeah. You do you.
I'm gonna go kind of low. I think great or good, whatever is like 3 out of 5.
Yeah,
like
that's good.
That's good. That's good for me. I'll reserve my final judgment until after discussion.
That's fine. Not everybody can be right. All right. Rick, where are you at with this?
So what I have read, I've been very surprised by, just because I didn't know anything about this era. And so it's been really fun. Like I said, I've read the other stories. What are those other arcs that are in the beginning of volume 2?
Golden Age of the Jedi.
The Golden Ages, yes. All that. And so that was interesting. It's been a little jarring just jumping from world to world. Like in between issues. But man, I feel like I'm giving it an incomplete grade because I haven't.
That's fine. Incomplete. So, an I. The only grade lower than an F.
Can I like take it again for audit credit or something? Like
that's right. You get a do-over next week because we do have a part 2 on the round table. In fact, when I was initially scheduling this all out, I made it into a 3-part round table, but that felt excessive. So I've dialed it back into 2. It could have been 3. I mean, we could have covered, half of these issues, and maybe Rick would have gotten them done.
Maybe.
Maybe. So let's start off with the characters. I've divided these up into 2 segments, the heroes and the villains, but even the heroes, some of them are a little villainous, let's be honest. So starting with the heroes, our protagonist, Ulic Keldrama. This is a spoiler for something that does happen in Dark Lords of the Sith. So you've been warned. Ready? 5, 4, 3. In case you can't tell in this particular image, Ulic does, in fact, fall to the dark side in the storyline called Dark Lords of the Sith. It's right there in the title. Come on, y'all. But here's my question. Did you expect Ulic to fall to the dark side? Did you see his fall coming? Did it catch you off guard? Did you see it coming? Where were you at with all that? Emily, you're up.
I couldn't get on board with his storyline. I felt like I saw his fall from like a mile away because like you can't mess with the dark side, and like every young buck Jedi comes up and is like, oh, I could probably tame it, and then like every single time they fall, and like I don't understand how we're still kind of working the same storyline, and it's. I liked that he had a brother. I liked that dynamic, and
Yeah, that is
ultimately that does prove very important. So I liked that bit. That's about that was my favorite part. I'll say that. I'll keep it positive. That was my favorite part is that like he came as like a duo and like one side stayed true and then the other side really fell.
I love that. This is, in case you can't tell, by the way, this is a masterpiece for me. There is nothing in all of Star Wars that I enjoy more than the Tales of the Jedi and Dark Lord of the Sith audio dramas. And I know that I'm a broken record, and I've said this 100 times on the show. Like, Dark Empire is here, and then like 1% below it for me is Tales of the Jedi, specifically the audio dramas. They're so rich and also extremely campy at the same time in a beautifully entertaining way.
Yep,
And
I see that.
yeah, and then like third for me after that would be the original trilogy. Yeah, I rank it lower for me in my personal enjoyment,
Really?
like revisitability factor.
Which original trilogy?
All
Like,
right.
like
Like I think the
novelization. What's it called? Comicalization of the
No, I'm
films.
talking about like actually watching the movies.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like for comics. So.
No, like just watching the films. And my reason for that is they're a little mainstream. And also I'm a
you like
purist,
to be like a hipster.
and I only like to watch the original trilogy, like any Star Wars movie, on a big screen with great sound. So like I don't just watch them on TV. I it just doesn't quite. I know how cool it can be, so I don't. But these you can just pop them in anytime. Cassette tapes, CDs, there you go for it. I've got them, a little bit more modern than that. But yeah, masterpiece for me. There's my answer. Now you brought something great up a second ago, Emily, which is the brother. So that's a great dynamic that is revisited at the end of his storyline, which we can talk more about later, and what eventually brings Ulick back from the dark side, which is interesting. So the brother, Rick, you got something teed up for us. What you got?
Yeah, so you asked if we saw Ulick's fall to the dark side coming.
Yeah.
And I just read this panel like today. Master Arca, Freedon Nad was a Jedi. How can a Jedi trained in the ways of the light fall victim to the dark side? It has happened more than once. Fortunately, it does not happen often. Ulick, my son, pray that it never happens to you. And there's this dramatic like side glance.
Yeah.
So like that's the biggest foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's like not subtle at all.
Right.
What issue is that from, Rick? I'm thinking that's. Oh, is it the very first issue?
No, it's the one right before Nomi Sunrider Saga number 1.
Okay. So that's the end. That's the last.
Tales 5, I guess. Tales 5.
Yeah. So that's the end of that first little story arc. Yeah. So Emily, you brought up a great point, and that you did not love the way that he fell to the dark side. What if I told you that writer Tom Veitch agreed with you?
Well, then I would say, well done.
This is actually one of the divisive. It's one of the divisive points in Tales of the Jedi that Tom Veitch and Kevin J. Anderson. Tom Veitch wrote Dark Empire. Kevin J. Anderson wrote a ton of '90s legend stuff, including Jedi Academy trilogy. They collaborated on this, and Tom Veitch has gone on the record saying, in hindsight, he wished that they had never collaborated, and he didn't love the way that particular storyline was kind of. He described it as ripped away from him, got out of hand, and he had some sort of vision, and we just don't quite know what it was, and that to me is really interesting. Now, I will respond to this. You said that how many times can we see this happen? A Jedi who falls to the dark side, right? However, Emily, I'm going to put the ball back in your court. This is 1993, maybe 94, when Tales of Dark Lords of the Sith is coming out. How many Jedi had fallen to the dark side in Star Wars storytelling by this point?
Dark Empire.
Oh
Like
yeah,
it
I guess
was,
there's that.
I'd read this before because I opened it, I'm like, this is just Dark Empire and like just a different, slightly different storyline, and there's
Yeah,
like a
you're right.
single mom thrown in there.
And there's Darth Vader. Heard of that guy? Like
Sure, but that's
Yeah.
not a big list to go off of.
I mean, at
That's
this
true,
point,
I
how
guess.
many Jedi do we know exist? There's 4.
Yeah.
Like
Now they did a great job in other areas.
uh,
I liked a lot of other parts about it.
Yeah.
I didn't. I don't know. I felt like the brother was kind of like he's important in the long run, but he kind of did nothing really
Right,
of
yeah.
significance.
He's got
And
major sidekick energy.
yeah, and
He's
then
definitely the
Ulick
younger
has this
brother, you
weird
know what I'm saying?
dynamic with Exar Kun, and it's like, who's in charge? Like, who's the leader here? Like, are you guys just collaborating? But like, you're
There's not much of
Sith,
a
so
master
that's not going to
apprentice
work.
relationship. No.
I don't know. And it could have just been the pace. Like, I didn't have time to savor like the art as much as I would have liked. I did at first. I was like really trying to like enjoy the moment, and then I realized I was going to run out of time. And sure enough, I was reading up till the last minute. So it could have just been like the pace was just too hard, like too fast to like really take in the
It is
story.
fast. No, I do agree that I think that the fall is rushed in terms of storytelling, but that is often the case with comics. I mean, even
Yeah,
like
that's true.
the more
The
recent High
stakes
Republic comics, it just feels
change
like
fast.
the first phase of High Republic, the Marvel stuff, like a character story arc is just way too fast, and you
Mm.
needed so much more time, years even, to sink into a run. That's why something beautiful like John Jackson Miller's Knights of the Old Republic series, which ran for 55 issues, you get plenty of time in that for characters to
Mm.
develop.
Mm.
This was a much more accelerated pace, but that could never have run had this not walked first. So this
True.
definitely paved the way. But it's a great point. It's a great point to not necessarily love his fall to the dark side. You're in good company there. It's a divisive point for the series. You did bring up the brother, Kay Keldroma. There's also the Twi'lek Tot Danita. I've got an audio clip that I forgot to pass along to Rick. So maybe for next week, of when Kay loses his arm. Classic Star Wars. He loses a limb, amputated in this story, and I do love the way they keep referring to it as his droid arm after this,
Hmm.
not as his robotic arm or his prosthetic arm, but his droid arm.
That'd be so cool. It's like Go Gadget, but it's just
hey,
it would be
That's
cool
right.
if they could like detach and like do things and then come back.
Yeah, you
That'd
can
be
just kind of see that this is like the first kind of forays into the expanded universe in many
Yeah.
ways. This was
Okay.
these Legends authors kind of just figuring it all out. I mean, it's fun to see in that way. Now we've talked about Ulick Qel-Drama a little bit. This kind of headstrong Jedi who gets a little angry, and then that anger runs off with him. And I will say, in response, before we move on to Nomi, that him falling to the dark side, yes, it's similar to Dark Empire in the sense that he says, "I'm going to join the Sith in order to defeat them." That's the same. That's the same story arc there for sure. The same beats. You could tell Tom Beach kind of had his thing that he wanted to describe, and I love that as a storytelling move. Perhaps not so close together in both of these two early '90s comics doing it, but I do like this theme that it paints with fate. Almost like you were destined to fall to the dark side, and the Sith knew they claimed you before you ever even were flirting with the dark side. You were destined to be a Sith Lord, and I do wonder, with both Exar Kun, which we're talking more about later, and Ulick Qel-Drama, kind of falling into this dark vortex of the dark side, whether or they wanted to be a part of it or not. I wonder how responsible do you think they are for their own actions of evil versus how much is the storytellers painting this as fate, or maybe on a third level, manipulation by the devil made me do it sort of thing, like the dark side forces, these dark ghosts, inviting you, possessing you even to the dark side. The theme of fate.
That's a good point.
Theme of fate.
That Sith poison was sick. Like that was the coolest twist. I loved that part where it was just how it's like a slow fade. It has a twist you didn't expect. Was anybody else surprised by that?
Yeah, I thought that was a great little
I loved
storytelling
that.
fabric.
That
for
kind
sure.
of was more like the playing into the fate thing, or like he really didn't have a choice. It kind of added some complexity to
sickness.
his character that he
Yeah.
could very well want to be different, but he can't control his emotions. He's like a toddler in like a Sith body. Just
Yeah, I mean, like a sick person
temper
who
tantrums. Yeah.
there's sicknesses that can play on your own ability to reason, or
Mm.
can make you more, easily upset, more emotional.
I wish that they had added some more implied that he was torn between the two, because it seemed like he was like, no, I'm Sith now. Like everything's fine. But like if they had played into that a little bit more and kind of made it seem like maybe he could come back to the light on his own.
Mm.
Because it seems like Nomi is just always trying to rush in to save him based off this love interest that they have, which I
Yeah,
also found kind of confusing.
I think in hindsight, I would have liked to have seen that not be a part of the series.
Yeah, me too.
But this was the 90s, and
Yeah,
boy, it's
they're thirsty.
they thrive off the
Mhm,
romantic pairings. That's
they
for
do.
sure. That's for sure. You've got another romantic pairing with Ulick, with the dark mistress Alima Quito,
Oh my
and
gosh.
and her cousin brother. They were kind of a twisted pair.
Star Wars
Sito?
relationship.
That's right. That's right. And so, how much we can talk about her a little bit. How much do you think she's responsible for Ulick's fall to the dark side?
Rick, you gotta start, man.
She seduces him and is twisting his ear and whispering sweet nothings like, I like it when you're a bad boy. And he's like, maybe I am a bad boy, but he's not. And he's like your shining knight Jedi, and instead he has
Dude,
like
he
a
did
goth
not
girl.
put up any fight. It was just like, yeah, okay. What you
I
need?
guess I am bad now.
Yikes.
Sure.
Oh
Yeah.
my
So
gosh.
anyway, that's a whole story where the two of them are flirting with the Sith. They're interested in finding Sith relics, and then to get in over their heads, and they're staging a coup on their home planet to the Empress Teta system, and
Yeah.
they get mixed up with Exar Kun and Ulick, and they're pitting the two against each other, which I find an interesting little story triangle there. Rick, were you about to add something on that?
No, just there. I like how complex like the story is, where there's so many different characters, so many different things happening. I wasn't expecting that, and so the fact that there's so many different planets, some are familiar, some are less familiar. You got to see Coruscant. You got to see, well, not Coruscant. That's in the other one.
Onderon,
You got to
which
see,
really takes on a life of its own for
yeah.
years to come. Yeah.
So I
And
think that was cool.
It's in both Knights of the Old Republic and now, Clone Wars. It's Onderon's been where everybody's trying to go back to Onderon, which is cool. It's one of my favorite Legends planets for sure. We're gonna stake our Legends flag in Onderon, and we're not leaving this hill unless a Sith Lord, possesses us and makes us go conquer other systems, which is fine. All right, hey, we've talked about Ulick and his fall and his shining knighthood, and yet is seduced by the woman. But of course, little spoiler here for the last of these story chunks, the Sith War. His brother dies, Kay dies, and that loss is eventually, what breaks Ulick. It breaks the dark side spell over him, and Nomi is the one who casts a force spell upon him to sever his connection with the Force. You are cut off. Pitch perfect. Yeah. So he's cut off. Thank you, Emily, for the pity laugh there. I appreciate it. That landed for somebody out there driving in their car. I guarantee it. So, hey, he's cut off from the Force, and yet helps them, the Jedi, to go and take down Exar Kun, who's doing the big Yavin 4 thing with the Masasi, and it's out of control, but pretty cool. I love Yavin 4. It's a great wrinkle to the story in terms of that the power of his brother's love is what saves him, and yet it's not a full redemption. He doesn't go back to the light side. He's cut off from the Force for the redemption story. Would you care to take a wager on what story, which of these upcoming story arcs that we're going to cover next week might cover Ulick's redemption? Any guesses? I'll give you a hint. We're going to talk about 3 next week: the Golden Age of the Sith, the fall of the Sith Empire, and Tales of the Jedi Redemption.
Huh.
I'm gonna go with redemption. I almost said something about not knowing if he's going to choose to come back or not, but then I was like, I'll just not say anything because I don't know, and I have a feeling I might have an idea now.
But it's handled really
I
well,
know.
and it's
Good.
years after the rest of Tales of the Jedi has been put on the shelf, and it's
Oh,
got
cool.
an updated, fresher art style, which is cool. And it follows. We won't get into it. We'll wait. But it is, for my money, and I know many Legends fans, including some in the chat here tonight, one of the best Legends stories ever told. It is top 10 for me, without a doubt. So we'll get more into that. We've talked about Ulick. Let's move on, at least for a few minutes here, to Nomi. I wonder, when Nomi's introduced, there's already been 5 issues, the Tales of the Jedi. In your opinion, does Nomi upstage Ulick as the protagonist of the series? Does she kind of steal the limelight?
I thought so.
Emily's nodding along. Oh, you
Yeah.
thought so? Okay.
hmm
Rick?
Yeah.
Rick
Also,
has not
yeah.
yet
All
read
right.
the Nomi issues. All
No,
right.
I have read the Nomi issues. I'm still with Master, not Thor, Thrawn or Thon or Ton.
Yeah, the Rhino.
The Rhino. And so I haven't gotten to the part where she actually, fits into her calling and all that.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah, no, I thought her storyline was beautiful. There are very few complaints that I have. I think she has a fantastic backstory and is like a really compelling character. She's got motivation, she's got complexity. Like, she is mourning the loss of her husband and doesn't really want to fight, which is a beautiful spot to be as a Jedi. She's a mom, which is amazing
There you
and
go. Yeah.
strong and has
bald,
this unique
so connects
power that
very
we haven't
well
seen.
with
What'd you say?
and balding, which connects very well with,
Yeah.
the people like me and Rick at this stage in our life.
look
who
at that
are-
hairline.
There we go.
Which brings me to the few irritations I have, which is that it was kind of jarring, the variety of illustrations that we got for Nomi, where she started off as this weird like hairline, and then she was like this flowing desert lady, and then who like refused to be violent at all, and then ends up coming back to the weird hairline. So it's a little bit like the illustration difference was a little bit jarring for me, but I love her character.
I think there's some creative differences happening behind the scenes with this
Yeah.
series, including the design of Nomi. And so you can see in some of the art kind of the 90s woman style coming through, where she's, curvy and yet slender, and the long flowing locks. I'm trying to describe this tastefully. But then
She's a babe.
sometimes she's got this odd hairline, and so it's like,
Yeah, and then sometimes she looks real weird.
it seems like they can't quite commit to what they want that character to be visually. But I think
But
if you
like
can get
battle meditation, heck yeah! Like,
The-
let's
the
bring
greatest-
that.
the greatest Jedi power of all time, battle meditation.
That was so cool. It's like, all right, so the two like main female leads, there's like the protagonist, Nomi, and then there's Alima, who's like this sick Sith sorceress who is totally the opposite,
Yeah.
and like wily and like very sexualized, and like that was a
Cunning.
weird kind of turn, but like also a very strong female lead, which you're not really sure what her goal even is until the very end, and you're like, okay, so she's just been playing everyone this whole time. So very interesting female characters. I felt like
hadn't thought
the
about-
love triangle was a little much for me.
I do think
I
that
would have
that is one of
preferred.
the weaknesses of the series. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like he
The
would have
love
been much.
interest.
I feel like Ulick would have been such a stronger like uncle figure to her daughter if it had been like more of like a familial bond where she's like, you can't, because like the daughter is there, but like she doesn't ever do anything. But they
Wait
keep
for it.
talking
That's all
about
I'm
her.
gonna say is wait for it. That
Okay, like I know she's
the
gonna do
bond-
something, but they keep saying like she's gonna be a great Jedi. I'm like, okay,
the bond
great. Like, I got it.
between Nomi's daughter Vima and Ulick is the
It's
greatest
good?
thing in Tales of the Jedi Redemption. Yes, it is.
Okay,
So,
well, thank you, because like that makes me
it
feel
does go
better.
somewhere.
I'll stop
it does go
talking now.
somewhere. So yeah, no, you're right. I had not thought to compare Alima and Nomi. Alima, who is ambitious and like she's trying to conquer the system and gain these Sith powers. And Nomi, who's like, I don't want to be a Jedi. I don't want a lightsaber. The lightsaber killed my husband. I don't want to do it. Very reluctant. I hadn't thought about that. It's a really good contrast. Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Talked about Nomi here being kind of the upstaging protagonist of the series. Emily waxed poetic, and I interrupted her a few times. Apologies for that. You're making some great points. I loved hearing your perspective on that. Let's talk about two more heroes before we move on. Rick, your favorite character, being Thawne, the Rhino Jedi, and Arca Jeth, who is the Jedi Master to Ulick and Nomi. No, Ulick and I can do this. Kay and there's one more. The Twilight Danita. So the three of them come from Arca. Yeah. Who is the better Jedi Master mentor of Tales of the Jedi? Thawne in one corner, Arca Jeth in the other. Rick, start us off.
I just want to start off by this photo, man, or this screenshot, whatever. Great naming convention, Star Wars. Tot.
Yeah, that's his name. I had a friend in high school named Tot.
And
I can't help but hear Tater.
I know, like that's an implied Tater. It's there. And then Thawne. Like not Thrawn, not Thor. Thawne.
Yeah, it's a great Star Wars name. It fits right in the sweet spot.
Don't drop it.
That's right.
Thawne.
That's right. So I do like the bait and switch with them thinking that the Jedi Master is the one riding the beast.
Yes,
I did love that.
I know that reference.
The beast is the Jedi. Aha.
What a cool twist. They had so many aliens in this series. There were a ton of really cool ones.
It's just because it's a great series. That's
I mean, they did that really well. There, some of the humans had problems, but the aliens were on point.
Some Hutt politics,
Oh yeah.
And what was that ship that was like a space wasp carcass?
Oh, that was so cool.
That was fun.
I forgot about that.
The ship design, and there's a lot to be said about the ship design and this, and how the entire look of the series, how it's crafted, especially, let's see, which of the artists is responsible for much of this. It is Christian Gossett. In fact, talked about like there's 3 issues of Star Wars Insider where there's a behind the scenes deep dive on the history of Tales of the Jedi. It's issues 150, 151, and 153. So all of those are available on like the Titan Magazine's app or their website, and go back and find those back issues, or perhaps your library system. So physical issues in your library, or even like through Hoopla, Overdrive, Libby. My library system has like a tremendous back catalog of Star Wars Insider. So these particular articles are worth checking out. And Gossett goes into deep detail about the early 90s being tasked with creating kind of a medieval look for Star Wars ships. And so that's where you kind of get that wasp design. It went with kind of a steampunk looking.
Yeah. Man, there are a lot of good ships. I can't wait till next week. Talk about some of the Sith fleet.
Yeah, I think that's going to be in 2 weeks when I'm gone, okay. When you talk about the ships.
Oh.
That's going to be...
Not again. I will be gone too.
All right, let's just not have a show. How about
Unless we can talk about more wasp ships that are like that no technical specs are discussed, and we just talk
only
about
if I'm allowed to talk about
scraped out the carcass and like just use the exoskeleton.
Only if we're allowed to make Ender's Game references because it's there. So
hey, I asked the question: Arca or Thawne? Now, Arca is a tremendously influential character. He actually comes back in some form or fashion. I won't give in too many details here. In
Force Ghost?
No, it's a different way.
Okay.
I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
In Knights of the Old Republic by John Jackson Miller in that series. So
cool.
Arca comes back in a certain capacity there. So builds off this foundation that is laid before him. And so many Star Wars stories do build off this. KOTOR in particular really uses all of this lore as gospel. The story of Exar Kun and Ulick Qel-Droma and Naga Sato and Ludo Kresh, all of this is referenced in KOTOR in some form or fashion. But Rick, what's your vote? Are you team Arca or team Thawne? Which of these makes the better, master mentor?
I think I'm gonna go with Thawne because he's more of a mentor, I guess, than a master. The empathy of giving Nomi time to grieve and kind of work through her own needs before just go save the galaxy. Like he still forced her, but he gently kind of led her to where she needed to be. But it was very respectful, I guess. I don't know. So
He
I'm gonna
forced
go
her
with
respectfully. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
That's what I
Like
liked
any
about
good
Arca.
coach.
The very first
that's true.
arc for Arca.
Uh-huh.
Arca sends out. They says, "Hey, we've got a distress call from the Onderon system," and they're like, "Wow,
Yeah.
Master, that sounds like a hard task." And he says, "No, no, no, I'm not going. You're gonna go."
Yeah, go on. Take care of it. Yep.
And then when they mess it up, he shows up and he says, "Yeah, you guys really should have called for backup because
Right. Y'all were
you
way
really
over
messed
your
this
heads
up."
here. Yeah.
So it's kind of for our canon High Republic fans, Loden Greatstorm, pushes Bell off the cliff and it's like,
Mm.
you'll have to catch yourself.
Figure it out.
That's right.
Mm.
It's that sort of a dynamic, which is great. Emily, are you Team Thawne or Team Arca?
I'm torn. I like Thawne more, but I think that's because I connect more with Nomi than I do with Ulick. And people kept talking about Arca, and I thought, like, why do we like this guy? Like, he's just kind of he's talked about, but he doesn't have much direct involvement. He seems to be like more of a mentor, and like, I don't know. He was clearly important to Ulick, but because I wasn't the biggest fan of that character, it was tough for me to be Team Arca. So I'll go with Team Thawne.
A great answer here from Skooma in the chat. Skooma in the chat. Skooma says that Arca Jeth, for me, it's cool seeing a Native American coded Jedi, and absolutely, I do love that. And this
That is true.
series
Okay.
excels
Feel bad.
in its representation, which is not what
Mhm.
you'd expect from a 90s comic, but it does. It really does. I'm also Team Thawne because he's a preacher. All right, with Thawne, he shows up to bear with me. I know he can't talk like conventionally. He doesn't speak basic all that well. He communicates
Like
telepathically.
Moses and Aaron.
Hey, he shows up to the meeting of the politicians to talk about how we need to send some help to the Republic Army down to bail out the Onderon system. And he gives them this beautiful speech about how important it is that the politicians work together and unite. It is beautiful. I love his speech that he gives the politicians to get them on board. It had me saying amen in his alien telepathic tongue.
Was it like full on like Pokemon talk where it's like he just like says his name? Like I know that I read like the parts where he talks and like it kind of slips in between basic and whatever gibberish he speaks. So I just want to know, is it Don?
I do like the way that it's written, scripted kind of by the letterer in this. Shout out to the letterer. The letterers, they're often overlooked in the comics world. The lettering for his alien speech is really well crafted. Looks beautiful. So great answer here from Skuma Joe in the chat. He says, I love Thawne too. I'll admit there's a very sweet scene with Arca that gets me in Redemption that may be swaying my vote. So stay tuned.
No voting on things we haven't read yet.
Stay tuned for that
now.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for that for sure. For sure.
I'm
All right.
missing something.
It really does bring the series full circle in a lot of ways. Saves the series and it's great on its own right, but Redemption is something special. Okay, so
I'm excited. Looking forward to it.
We've talked about the heroes and the mentors. We've briefly touched on the villains. We've not said a lot about Exar Kun yet, though, and we need to, because Exar Kun. Oh man, Exar Kun. I mean, that's a household name.
Oh my gosh,
for Star
it really
Wars
is. It
fans.
happened. I was like, what?
This is him. The very first double-bladed lightsaber. Oh, I gotta go grab mine. The very
I
first
didn't realize
double-bladed
that was the
lightsaber.
first.
Yeah, that's right. The one of these artists, I forget which one it
idea.
is, designed the first double-bladed lightsaber and presented it to George and everything. And George approved the idea and said, "Hey, he's never going to go for this," and he did. He did. And so it's a blue. I think we've got an image of it, Rick.
Okay.
Exar Kun with the double-bladed blue lightsaber. This is one of my favorite panels of Star Wars art of all time. There it is. Love it. Where's mine?
That's pretty cool.
Yep. So close. Here we go. All right, put me on the one. Ready? I'm gonna do my very best. Double-bladed blue lightsaber unsheathing moment. Oh, I forgot. I took the blades out.
Oh my. Okay.
Hold on. Pose with it. I'll Photoshop it for you. Okay, that's cutting off your head. Don't have
Yeah.
it over your head.
No, it's in front of the face. It's in front of the face.
Yeah, I'm not that good.
Look right into the tube like Luke does.
Oh man.
One of the greatest Star Wars moments of all time. All right, so
All right.
but beyond the lightsaber, how does Exar Kun propel beyond this series as such a lasting a Sith Lord who leaves such a lasting legacy? What is there that makes him a great villain?
Genocide.
There's that makes one quite the villain. I
There's
don't know
an
that
X in his name.
that helps
Very
as well.
evil.
Leave some answers for me, gosh.
I'm sorry,
What are
Rick.
some-
You got this. You
There's
got
some
it.
other villains with X's in their name, like Xerxes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
That's all I've
Wasn't
got.
he kind of a hero too?
Depends on your
Uh,
point of view if you're
yeah.
Yeah.
Spartan or Persian.
This
Yeah.
is Sparta. Okay.
All right. Also, we've got here in the comment that it should be mentioned that this is the first appearance of Korriban. Yeah.
That was cool. That
And
was
this
really
is the
cool.
design that ends up being influential for years to come, or maybe Empire's End. We don't know. Whichever one came out first. So, yeah, we didn't fact check the comments. Apologies. What is it about Exar Kun that makes him such an enduring villain?
What are your
Why?
thoughts?
Well, he won't go away. I mean,
Yeah.
he's literally enduring because he spans how many generations or how many millennia even. So like he doesn't go
4,000
away.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So makes him quite enduring.
So
Like
explain
the
to our
black
listeners
mold. With the Sith.
what you're talking about here.
So Exar Kun comes back in what is it? Jedi Academy.
Yeah.
And that's Luke and his apprentices that are under the influence of this. Was he a holocron or is he just a straight up demon ghost or Sith ghost?
Yeah, just the ghost.
Okay, I couldn't remember if he was contained to a holocron or not. So yeah, so he, even though he's defeated like time and time again, he keeps coming back and he keeps on popping his head up in different stories as a bad guy on Yavin.
So yeah, and he possesses Kip Duran, who leads him to commit genocide as well with the Sun
yeah,
Crusher.
the Sun Crusher. That's right.
And so here's what kills
A
me
lot of
about this,
genocide.
and I don't know if it's like a Exar Kun Frida Nad thing, or if it's just a Kevin J. Anderson trope. I'm not sure. It's one of the two, maybe both.
Oh.
That Exar Kun falls to the dark side because, first of all, he's already kind of a rebellious knight who's power hungry and ambitious and is interested in the forbidden fruit sort of deal. And so he goes to find the ancient Sith lore, the amulets, and but there he is lured and enticed to the dark side by the spirit of Frida Nad, and is basically possessed by Frida Nad, and is like, hey, he's about to die. He's been hit with, was it poison? Anyway, he was going to
just got
die.
crushed. He was like physically crushed, and then had to use the dark side to like pull himself back together to live, which is very un-Jedi.
Right, and he makes kind of a deal with the devil, with Frida Nad, who
Yeah, he does.
tells him, if you do this, you're one of us. You will, if you embrace the dark side, this is it. You're a Sith Lord. And so it's almost like Exar Kun falls to the dark side. It's more complex than this, but for the TLDR of it all, Exar Kun falls to the dark side because he was possessed by the ghost of Frida Nad. Then, millennia later, Kip Duran falls to the dark side because he's possessed by the ghost of Exar Kun. So it's like Exar Kun has spent 4,000 years thinking about how he's going to get his big bad revenge. And he's like, yeah, I'm just going to do what that old fart did to me.
I don't have time. I've been stuck on this rock for
Now that I
thousands
think
of
about
years.
it,
I'm not taking chances. I'm
I've
gonna
had
do
a lot of
what's
time
worked.
to think about this, and he did a really good job at messing everything up in my life. So I'm just going to do that to the next kid that walks into this temple.
Oh my gosh. That
So-
was good.
But on like a mythological kind of Shakespearean level, I like the way history repeats itself. and there's this idea of a protagonist who flirts with destiny and flirts with their own inner darkness, and then has the opportunity to come back or to go too far. And so all of that stuff I really enjoy with all this. All right. Exar Kun does become a household name among Legends fans. However, he's not the only villain in this series. Who do you more love to hate? Queen Aminoa or King Omen, the two evil rulers on Onderon? Aminoa is a queen who worships the spirit of Frida Nad, and then King Omen is a decrepit corpse held aloft with the power of the dark side and Frida Nad.
Okay, I was
Can
so
I-
confused by this.
Can I riff for a second?
For sure.
Yeah, please do.
So I'm reading these stories on an iPad, and when I get to what issue is this? Wherever we are, when we're first introduced to Queen Aminoa,
Like the
And
first
I'm-
story arc there. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm reading this. I don't always go to like the zoomed in version, and I straight up read Queen Amanda.
I did too.
In the presence of of Amanda, Queen of Onderon. And so it was like probably 3 issues. I was like, all right, Queen Amanda, we're just gonna rock that 90s name. That's fine. And then
Rick,
you zoom in and it's like,
we
oh,
just talked about her on our episode with Trevor 2 weeks ago.
I had no clue who she was then either. So see, like it's obviously
Oh, okay.
Aminoa, but when you're reading it,
No, it does look like Amanda in that script. It really does.
So like I was like, Queen Amanda, got it, cool. So there you
Well, Emily, here's a question for you. Who would win in a fight, Darth Hannah or Queen Amanda?
Oh man, we're gonna have to put it to the Discord, guys. There's no way I can make that very nuanced and complex
mean,
call here.
Darth Hannah, Hannah's
Can we
down.
talk about for a second how old this queen is?
Mm.
And like they're humans, as far as I can tell.
Right.
And says the queen seems far older than her 70 years. Her daughter Gallia, heir to the throne, is only 18. Can we just like do some math? I'm not great at it.
Or maths if
Ooh.
you're British.
What happened there?
Well, you see, when a mommy
No,
and the
Rick,
dad-
don't do it.
Okay.
No.
Don't do that. Don't do that. I'm just so old. They're both
it's dark
so
side magic.
so old.
Yep.
Well, have you ever read the story of Abraham and Sarah in the Bible?
That's
Yes,
different.
but, like,
That's different.
Star
Don't go
Wars
there.
is different.
Why?
Yeah, he's over 100, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
This is
so
it's like truly shocking.
no, there's some great wacky legend stuff in this series, which is what makes it rich and beautiful.
That
But
threw
you,
me.
you know what's not beautiful? King Omen. Rick, can we show the good folks King Omen?
Okay, yeah.
Oh my gosh, this guy.
Now, this is something that has been recently recanonized with the Rise of Palpatine. What's that movie called? The Rise of Skywalker. But yeah, so this Palpatine is held aloft by a physical mechanical harness that canonically is known as the Omen harness, according to the Rise of
Oh.
Skywalker novelization by Ray Carson. And so, King Omen, welcome back. You're back in the limelight, buddy. Congratulations. He's been alive all this time. So,
I'm
who do you
curious
love
why
to
they
hate?
didn't just pair up. They were like had similar goals. Why was he stowed away in like some secret place?
To keep the story lasting longer.
Hmm.
They were together, but like maybe they were estranged. I imagine it's hard to keep a marriage
Going for
lasting
eternity.
when you both are, sold your souls to Sith Lords. I imagine you're
That's
like
true.
not the most agreeable, selfless people.
The angles on his fingers as he's like falling apart are just horrifying.
Yeah, they're
So-
gross.
Like parsnips.
Is he like Duke Harkonnen from Dune, like that kind of vibe?
That's crickets for me, buddy.
Okay.
Mm.
Help me out in the chat, those of you who like Dune. So he had like a
Oh,
machine to
yeah.
lift his body and was a total creep
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that. So
I could see that. There's a lot of overlap between Star Wars and Dune, back and forth over the years.
for sure.
For sure. So we've talked about quite a few of the villains, though I do wonder, is Frida Nad ultimately at the end of the day the big bad of Tales of the Jedi? or is it more Exar Kun? I mean, Queen Aminoa and King Omen. Shout out to them. They're both gross and ugly and old, but they're not the big bads of the whole overarching series.
Hmm.
So far, based on what you've read, who would you say is the big bad villain of these comics?
I'm gonna go with Naga Sadao since I read the wrong ones.
That's good. You're allowed to say that.
Yep.
I'm gonna go with Exar Kun.
Perfect.
You went like next level. I don't know. Frida Nad is pretty evil. You do?
Yeah, I mean, like, on a certain level, he's the one who possessed Exar Kun and really cemented him down the dark path, though.
I feel like Exar Kun made his own choices, though.
That's the crux of the series: is how much of it is destiny and fate versus how much of it is your own responsibility for your own actions. And for more on that, tune in next week for our discussion of Tales of the Jedi Redemption, where that issue is discussed in more detail. So before we wrap it all up, just a few overarching questions. The design of all this is a wild departure from what we've seen in the original trilogy. We've got this 90s comic style, and the Jedi almost look like Arthurian knights more than the monkish Jedi that we become accustomed to when it's all said and done. And I've heard this go both ways. I wonder, what is your opinion? Is Tales of the Jedi too similar to what we see in the original trilogy, just to rehash, repeat? Or is it too different, like wildly, hey, this is just way out there for you? Do you think it's too much in this direction, too much in the other direction, or like a baby bear, just right? You can tell I've been reading to my 4-year-old a lot lately.
I feel like it's just right. There's some stuff that's really out there. There's some stuff that seems very the same. But if it's meant to be sort of like a mythology or kind of like
an epic,
history repeats itself. That's a normal thing. And so like if it is set in a completely different time, then it could be like, oh yeah, this is kind of like what happened back then. So like when you have new events that happen in history, you can look back and say like, well, this isn't the first time we've encountered something like this. So I think there's this kind of like a cyclical effect in storytelling that can be kind of appealing. It also, to me, it felt like kind of a lot of the same, but given the type of story that this is, shouldn't be surprising.
Yeah, it's a good point. Especially considering the fact that this is similar to what we got in Dark Empire with Luke, saying I need to infiltrate the dark side in order to defeat it. And of course, there's a holocron from Voto Boss that tells some of these stories, and he says there, like, don't you know the story of Exar Kun, or of Ulic Keldroma, who did the same thing? And so I like the way that these authors were able to weave their material across eras. In these early days of the 90s EU, it was really building some strong connective storytelling tissue, which is really rewarding for readers. Rick, is it too similar, too different, or right in the middle?
I think right in the middle. And I'm excited to go back and, once I finished all these, go back and read Dark Empire again to see some more of that. But like Star Wars has always been repeating tropes, repeating themes. Thankfully this is not a Skywalker story. It's nice to get away from all that, but it still is. George Lucas's vision was this trilogy of trilogies of these stories that kind of repeat themselves, and so it's fitting that I think we've got some similarity and overlap. I think it's a good happy medium.
And what else is fitting too is, just like in Dark Empire, there is a naked Force user.
Who is that? Oh.
Tales of the Jedi, we have a naked
All right,
Jedi
bring that back
master.
up. Cut to the one, Rick. Cut to the one. What is it? Show it again. Who is it?
He's very nude. It's Arca.
Okay.
I turned to that and I was like, well, it wouldn't be Legends.
There it is.
It's balance in the Force.
It's
right?
balance. You got a light side user too. I mean,
hey,
honestly, like his positioning there too is like almost Christ-like. Where it's like,
that's where I was like, yeah, I don't know where we're going with this.
Well, speaking of art, the artwork in this is divisive. On the one hand, it kind of looks like, your classic 90s, early 90s artwork.
Didn't show this picture off.
Gosh.
Yeah, there's what's her name?
Alima.
Alima.
Alima. Did I include the
Oh,
wrong picture
my word.
Oh, I don't know.
in the file?
Just
Uh,
any picture of her is like,
yeah.
Yeah,
what is happening here?
that's
Yeah, looking
enough.
at the artwork, the covers by Dave Dorman are for me some of the
Oh
finest pieces of Star
yes,
Wars art of all time. This
they
is
are
one of my
really
favorites
good.
here. This is the Freedom Net Uprising #1 by Dave Dorman. That's got I think Warb Null with the lightsaber. I mean, it is oh man, one of my very favorite pieces of Legends art. Uh, a great comment there in the chat. I'm not gonna say it. All right, but you can see it. All right, moving on.
Next year, March Madness is going to be your favorite naked Star Wars character.
Well, we had Mace Windu and Shatterpoint
Oh, yeah. That was a good one.
for sure.
Oh man. Okay, this could actually be a thing. Great. What did I start?
Put your nominations
In
in
our
the.
Legends bingo.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Pick
Hey,
a naked person.
that'd be
Stick them in a
fun.
square.
We could have a Legends Look Back bingo card. That'd be fun. We could do a game out of that.
Oh, we should totally do
Somebody
it.
make one for us. We don't want to do it ourselves. All right.
Yeah.
With the art, anything else worth saying about the art? Evaluate the art. Give it a grade. How is the art jarring for you to go back to after all these years, or were you able to adjust to it?
I think the covers are on a different, like you said, they're a different league of their own, man. Like
Dave Dorman,
Yeah.
man.
they're incredible, and not blown away by many panels within the comics themselves, but there are some really good ones. So, but it's
The wasp
functional,
ship was a good one.
tells the story. Yeah, I like some of that.
There's some I meant to include. I just didn't have time. The battle between Ulick and Mandalore.
Hmm.
Ulick's doing this flip up above him. Oh, his like robes are flowing, and the lightsaber is kind of got this jagged look to it. I
Very
really love.
dynamic.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. So speaking of which, I just gave mine away. My favorite little story moment is that with Ulick's duel with Mandalore. What about the two of you? Did you have a favorite story beat or a plot line in Tales of the Jedi so far?
I just love Nomi. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't love every
Nomi's,
part of her
the
character, but like, I think she's so cool.
the montage of her learning to be a Jedi is really cool. Her Jedi training, I do love that.
Mhm.
Man, I haven't gotten enough to see the complete arcs all the way. It keeps cutting back and forth, so I'm like a third or 2/3 in on everything. So
Yeah,
next week I'll
Ooh,
catch up.
it's fine.
the Jedi Groot was cool. That was really nice. When he's like protecting, you won't get these lightsabers, and turns into a tree and then like dies. That was cool.
Yes, I do love that. I was trying to find that for a reference on something months ago, and I thought it was in the Young Jedi Knights books, and I could not find it for the life of me. And it was in this, which was like when I saw it, I was there it is. I was desperately trying to find that. Great comments here in the chat. We're about to wrap it up for tonight. Do love everybody's comments. Such good fervor here. Good participation in the chat. Thank you for that one, Eddie, who talks about another naked character being Shizor in Shadows of the Empire. Yep.
Yeah, who's
That happens.
surprised?
I mean,
Thank you. And
he
congratulations.
likes
You
his
made
own
it.
pheromones, I guess.
You made it
Mm.
onto the stream with that comment for
Mm.
better or for worse. One last question before we wrap it up for tonight. If Tales of the Jedi was to be modernized and brought into canon in some form or fashion, if you were in charge, how would you adapt the series? In what medium would you adapt it? Would it be a comic? Would it be a TV show or a live action movie, a video game? What would be the medium? What arc would you want to adapt? We've had quite a few different kind of story things here. You don't necessarily have to choose all of it. What characters would you want to bring back? And then what significant changes, if any, would you make? Would you possibly not have as many of the love interests or
It's like 20 questions, bro.
If
Yeah, that
you
was a
were
lot.
to adapt Tales of the Jedi, how would you do it in canon?
I would hijack the High Republic and sneak him in there.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. Take away the love stuff. Like,
Yeah.
Alima, maybe like if she like seduced him to bring him over to the dark side, that's believable. The thing with him and Nomi just didn't work. It wasn't for me.
Hmm.
It wasn't
Well-
compelling enough of a reason and he wasn't at all loyal to her. Like, in no way did he resist Alima. Like, in no way. So
How about this? Ulick way cooler than Nomi's first husband. He was a wimp.
Seriously, dies by just random venomous animal. The first, like, oh my gosh, yeah. It sounds like he had lots of missions, but it's just out shopping and he dies
No, he
immediately.
was ambushed. He was set up by the Hutt's thugs.
Who was it who had the comment though about? Yeah,
they tell you he didn't get the brief. It's like, hey, don't talk about these incredibly valuable crystals. Just don't talk about them.
Right.
Yeah, sad
Anyway.
day. Sad day.
All right. So if you were to adapt it, you would insert them into the High Republic. All right. What else?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't
Pretty
fit.
fun.
Wouldn't fit.
I feel like as a series, it would be really good because like little.
It'd have to be like a prequel, like Wave 1.5.
Yeah, well, like
or
I don't
2.7. I don't know.
Sort of like how they did. Was it Ronin?
Oh yeah.
It's
Where
kinda
it's
what I
kind
was
of like
thinking, too.
impressionistic. It's a little bit kind of like legendy, legendsy. I think that could work. Where it's
Very
kind
stylized.
stylized. That's a good way to put
That's
it.
exactly what I was thinking. And honestly, Emily,
Yeah.
this is what I was hoping for when we got Tales of the Jedi, the TV show.
Yeah.
We went to the big panel at Celebration. They used the
Vastly
old
different.
school logo, and then it was like, an Ahsoka story, which is fine. That's good. But I would have liked to have seen, even if they were like shorts, 5-minute, 10-minute little shorts here, like an
Yeah, that would've
ancient,
been really nice.
legendary tale of this larger than life heroic Jedi, and then his fall to the dark side, and then the war against the Beast Riders. And I think that could be
Beast
really
Riders. That was
Beast
sick.
Riders. I do think about the Transformers show every time. The Beast Wars of Onderon. That's one of mine and Freddie's shared passions is the old school Beast Wars show. Shout out to Beast Wars, and shout out to all of our wonderful listeners for being here with us live on this episode of Legends Look Back. That does it for tonight. Coming up next week on Living Force on Monday night, we've got the Star Wars Celebration London reactions, which set those alarms nice, bright, and early, governor, because over there in London, we've got a 6 a.m. panel that 6 a.m. I think might be American Eastern time. Yeah, I don't know. I'm waking up early personally to try to see what the news is. And we'll cover the Legends news here on Legends Look Back. If you want the larger scope on all that, Monday on the Living Force. Next week on Legends Look Back, however, we're going to talk about Golden Age of the Sith, Fall of the Sith Empire, and Tales of the Jedi Redemption. And boy, it had better be good because we've talked it up on this episode. That does it for this week. Thanks for joining us on Legends Look Back. Thanks to our incredible patrons for your support. A special thank you to Brian Dooley, Earl Q, Carl Sander, and Zach W. on our Jedi High Council, as well as James T., Ashley Ingalls, and Chris Carrizo on the Alliance High Command. Thank you for your amazing support. If you would like your thoughts read on the show, you can find our contact information in the description. We're on Twitter at Legends Look Back. Remember, please leave us those likes and comments. Sub to the channel. Leave us a review in your podcast platform of choice. And remember to be a force for positivity and keep that you teeny fan code, everybody. Until next time, may the Force. Don't turn off your Audacity yet.